I've always processed things a bit more slowly than other people. Claire didn't actually like me, but she had to pretend to be my girlfriend and take care of me because my parents had made that arrangement with her family. One day, she mistakenly believed I had intentionally hurt her favorite classmate. As a punishment, she locked me in a pitch-black storage room, the one place I was absolutely terrified of, and she warned me with a chilling calmness. "Sam, even someone like you has to be punished for their mistakes." The shock of the experience was so profound that it caused me to lose my memory entirely. When I woke up, the first person I saw was the woman sitting by my bed, Eva, and I felt an immediate, unexplainable connection to her. She was Claire's older sister. This development sent Claire into a complete panic. She knelt before me, desperately apologizing. "Please, just try to remember. I'm your girlfriend." I stood near the entrance of the main academic building, staring blankly at the two of them. Claire and her classmate, Mark, were inseparable, as they always seemed to be lately. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it started, but Claire had begun giving Mark an incredible amount of her attention. Right now, though, I couldn't bring myself to worry about that. I jogged over to Claire and gently took hold of her sleeve. Mark, standing beside her, gave me a look that was easy to interpret as dismissive. "Hey, your slowpoke boyfriend is here for you again," he said, before adding with a fake-sounding laugh. "No offense, man. Slowpoke is a term of endearment. My corgi's name is Slowpoke, and he's super cute." My instincts told me that slowpoke wasn't meant as a compliment, but before I could fully process the word, Claire had already smoothly pulled her arm from my grasp. "What is it, Sam?" she asked. I grabbed her sleeve again, my other hand pointing toward an off-leash German shepherd sniffing the grass nearby. "Claire, I'm scared," I whispered. She knew perfectly well that I'd been attacked by a large dog when I was a child, and that I was still deeply terrified of them. This time, however, she just pulled her arm back again, her expression turning cold as she purposefully put some distance between us. "Sam, this is school," she said, her voice low and sharp. "We can't be all over each other in public." I looked at her, completely confused by her reaction. A flicker of intense impatience crossed her face. "Never mind. You wouldn't get it anyway." Claire refused to let me hold her hand and turned back to discussing her schoolwork with Mark, walking side by side with him. I had no choice but to follow closely behind her, my eyes darting nervously toward the German shepherd. Its gaze seemed to be locked right on me. My shoulders wouldn't stop trembling as I kept glancing at it, terrified that it would lunge at any second. As we got closer and closer, right when we were about to pass it, the dog let out a low growl and suddenly charged, straight at us. "Claire!" I squeezed my eyes shut and cried out instinctively. "Claire!" Mark yelled at the exact same time. Claire reacted instantly. Without a second thought, she yanked me behind her, but the momentum of her own movement made her stumble and fall hard to the ground. A sharp, stabbing pain shot through her knee. I looked down and saw a deep gash where a sharp rock had cut her when she fell. At the same time, a scream came from the other side. The German shepherd had knocked Mark down. Hearing his cry, Claire scrambled up, ignoring her own injury, and ran over to chase the dog away. She helped Mark up and pulled him into her arms, comforting him anxiously. It's okay. Let me see where you're hurt." Mark trembled in Claire's embrace, but as she checked him over, there were no visible wounds on the skin showing below his pants. "I don't remember where it bit me," he whimpered, "but I hurt all over." Claire's brow furrowed with genuine concern. She helped him up, ready to head to the hospital immediately. I staggered to my feet, my own leg throbbing from where I'd fallen, and called out to her softly. "Claire." "I know," she cut me off, her voice cold and hard. "I know you fell too." I froze. Her patience had clearly run out, and her tone was laced with irritation. "The campus health center is right up ahead. You can go get yourself patched up. Mark might have been bitten. I have to take him to get a rabies shot right away." My leg was just scraped. It wasn't as serious as her injury, but her wound was directly on her knee, a place where every movement would be agonizing, and it was still bleeding. She wouldn't be able to walk far on her own. I shook my head, trying to explain. "But you're—" "Sam." Lately, she seemed to have no patience for anything I said, cutting me off again and again. "If you hadn't kept staring at the dog and getting its attention, it wouldn't have charged. And Mark wouldn't have gotten hurt." Her words left me speechless, and I couldn't help but wonder if it really was my fault. Claire shot me an emotionless glance and turned away without hesitation. "I'm not going to deal with you right now, but at least don't stop me from fixing the mess you made." I couldn't bring myself to ask for help anymore. Not long after my dad passed away, my mom was getting remarried and moving abroad. Before she dropped me off at the Donovan's house, she told me over and over again, "Sam, don't be a burden to anyone." She said I was already a burden just by existing. I waited until the sharp pain in my leg subsided before limping my way to the campus health center. Unfortunately, the nurse wasn't there. I decided to head back to the Donovan's house first, planning to find some supplies to clean Claire's wound for when she returned. I was surprised to see Eva sitting on the couch when I walked in. She had only graduated from college a couple of years ago, and even when she occasionally swapped her business suits, for a simple hoodie, she still had this cool, sharp vibe about her. "Eva," I said, walking over to the couch and greeting her politely. Eva's eyes immediately fell on my limping leg. Her voice was cool and steady. "How'd that happen?" Just as I was about to answer, the front door opened again. Claire walked in, helping Mark, who was leaning on her heavily. She raised an eyebrow in surprise when she saw Eva. "When did you get back?" Eva didn't answer her sister's question. She just looked at the two of them with a wry, knowing smile. "Claire, are you cheating on him right in front of my face?" The sadness that had been lingering in my heart swelled 1,000 times over as she stood up for me. I lowered my head, trying to fight back the sting in my nose. Mark immediately hid behind Claire, not daring to speak, but Claire remained as composed as ever, her face a mask of innocence. "Sam caused my classmate to sprain his ankle today. I'm just bringing him home to recover for a few days. That's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?" With that, she walked right past me with Mark, acting as if I were invisible. Eva scoffed softly but didn't press the issue. She turned and asked someone to bring the first aid kit. Then she motioned for me to sit next to her on the couch and extend my leg. I stared at the collection of antiseptic bottles and ointments. Gripping the edge of the couch cushion, I whispered, "Eva, can you please be gentle?" She didn't look up, just arched an eyebrow. "Scared of a little pain?" After that, however, the cotton swab with the antiseptic touched my wound much more lightly. I nodded. "My pain tolerance is a lot lower than most people's." Eva's tone was casual, as if making small talk. "Claire doesn't seem to treat you very well, does she? Are you sure you want to keep going on like this with her?" I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Besides Claire, it felt like I didn't have any other choice. Eva's expression cooled, and she gave a slight, humorless purse of her lips. "And you don't mind, even when she hurts you?" As she spoke, she pressed the cotton swab a little harder against my wound. A sharp pain shot through my entire leg, making it tremble. I let out a small cry. "That hurts." Eva's brow furrowed. "Sorry." Slightly flustered, she knelt on the floor in front of me. She held my calf, leaned in close to the wound, and blew on it gently. "You okay?" she asked softly. Her movements were even more careful than before. The pain subsided a bit, and I nodded. "What are you two doing?" Claire was standing at the top of the second-floor stairs, looking down on us. She walked over to Eva and held out her hand, her face a blank mask. "Sis, don't trouble yourself with Sam. He's my boyfriend. I'll take care of him." Eva gently set my leg down before slowly standing up. She smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. "Then you better..." Her pace was slow, almost like a warning. "Make sure you take good care of him. Don't give anyone else an opening." Claire met her smiling gaze, her jaw tightening unconsciously. After Eva left the room, Claire's expression was exceptionally cold as she took hold of my calf. I was a little scared of her and asked tentatively, "Claire, could someone else put the medicine on for me? Even Mr. Chen, the housekeeper, would probably be gentler than her." Claire stared at me for a few long seconds, then let out a hollow laugh. "What's that supposed to mean?" She scrutinized me, her eyes completely indifferent. "Are you sulking?" Her inexplicable anger only made me want her help even less. But I shook my head and forced a placating smile, trying not to provoke her. "No, Claire. It's just that Eva already cleaned it for me. You don't have to bother." This time, she let go of my leg before I could pull it back. She straightened up, looking down at me with a mocking tone. "You think I want to touch you? Do you think I would have agreed to look after you if your dad hadn't helped my family out in the past?" After that, she tossed the medicine down on the couch next to me, turned, and walked to Mark's room without another word. I felt a sharp pang of sadness. I don't know when it started, but Claire had changed. That night, I sat on my bed, hugging my knees, missing my mom more than I could bear. I held my phone, staring at the number on the screen. A number so familiar, yet one I'd never dialed. I couldn't bring myself to press the call button. She had warned me that she was starting a new life abroad, and that I should forget her. She had raised me until I was 18. She didn't owe me anything, and I had no right to disturb her new life. I stayed up until dawn, wondering what I did wrong, what was so bad about me that made everyone abandon me one by one. The sound of a muffled argument outside my room broke my train of thought. I opened the door and followed the voices to the study. "Claire, you brought a strange boy home. What do you think Sam will think?" It was Mrs. Donovan, her voice thick with suppressed anger. "How could you do this to Sam? Have you no conscience? Our family owes him." "That's enough," Claire cut her off with a cold, bitter laugh. "You always bring up how his dad helped your company. What's the point of guilt-tripping me like this? I just can't stand him. Is it so wrong that I want to date a normal guy? Why don't you make my sister marry him instead?" The next second, the sharp sound of a slap echoed from inside the room. I didn't really hear what they said after that. I just stumbled back to my room in a daze. I finally understood what was wrong with me, why no one liked me. I touched my head and sighed in frustration. I almost forgot. I'm an idiot. Even though my dad always told me when I was little that my brain was just a bit slower than everyone else's, that if I was given enough time, I would figure things out. But right now, I had to admit it. In everyone else's eyes, I was just a freak. The next morning, when I saw Claire thoughtfully pull out a chair for Mark at the dining table and gently help him sit down, for the first time, I started thinking about leaving. As I looked away, my eyes met Eva's from her seat at the head of the table. She curled her lip in a small sneer, then looked down, ignoring me. Mark was all smiles. "Hey, slowpoke, you've got it made. Living here for free, not lifting a finger." Eva tapped her fingers on the table. She glanced up at Mark and smiled politely. "What did you just call him?" Mark blinked innocently. He's my age. It's okay to call him bro, right? Ava looked him up and down, her gaze anything but polite. It was enough to make Mark squirm in his seat. Claire couldn't stand it. Sis, don't give my classmate a hard time. Shut up. Eva stared at her, her smile icy. Am I talking to you? Eva was the heir apparent to the Donovan family. Her business acumen far surpassed Claire's, and that sealed her position as the one with absolute authority in the household. Claire's face turned pale, but she didn't say another word. Ava still looked calm and courteous, but there was an undeniably intimidating aura about her. She smiled at Mark. Aren't you going to apologize? The boy bit his lip, then turned to me and apologized profusely. I didn't know you didn't like that nickname. I'm sorry, Sam. I really didn't mean it as an insult. I always thought it was an affectionate name, like I was calling you cute. I stared at the fried egg on my plate and poked it gloomily with my fork. I muttered, If you love it so much, why don't you legally change your name to Mark Slowpoke? Ava let out a small, appreciative laugh. When she looked at me again, her eyes were soft and gentle. Eva had only been at Donovan Corp for 2 years and traveled a lot for work. That day, when I saw her change back into a blouse and slacks, I knew she was leaving again. Eva ignored Claire's warnings. She calmly continued to treat my wound, whispering, Call me if you need anything. The hand holding the cotton swab paused for a moment, then pressed down again. You can call even if you don't need anything. I nodded a few times. Uh-huh. Thanks, Eva. After I spoke, I leaned back, supporting myself with my hands on the couch. After she finished, Eva didn't get up right away. Instead, she leaned over me, her eyes fixed on mine. What should you do if someone bullies you? My mom told me it was okay to be a doormat, to just put up with it, but my gut told me that wasn't the answer Eva wanted to hear. After thinking for a long time, I tilted my head to meet her gaze. I slowly managed to get out 2 words. Call 911. Ava chuckled and shook her head. That's one way, but the most direct way is to hit back. She told me no one had the right to make me feel small. Eva was gone for a week on her business trip, and I kept her words in my mind that whole week. Right before she was due back, Mark suddenly approached me. He cornered me on the stairs, a smirk playing on his lips. What will it take for you to break up with Claire? Do her a favor and let her go, okay? My first instinct was to walk around him, to pretend I hadn't heard, and escape to my room. But I remembered what Ava said, and I stopped in my tracks. I enunciated each word carefully. That doesn't seem to be any of your business. Mark shook his head with exaggerated patience. Oh, but it is. Because I'm going to be with Claire. I looked him straight in the eye. Then you should be telling that to Claire. Although, after a week of agonizing, I was already planning to end this so-called relationship anyway. Suddenly, Mark glanced behind me and smiled slyly. You want to bet I can make Claire dump you using the dumbest trick in the book? With that, he grabbed my arm and dug his fingernails in, hard. It felt like they were about to break the skin. I tried to pull my arm back, wincing in pain, but Mark squeezed harder, and I couldn't move. In a panic, I instinctively shoved him. I didn't use much force, but he immediately lost his balance and tumbled down the stairs. Mark! Claire's voice came from behind me. She rushed past me, not even looking at me, to Mark's side. After checking him over, she had the driver help him into the car and head to the hospital. The massive house was suddenly empty, leaving just Claire and me. She walked toward me, her face expressionless, but a chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't stop backing away. "Claire, I didn't mean to—" She cornered me against the wall, her dark eyes like bottomless pits. "Sam, I'm only going to ask you this once. Did you push him or not?" I tried to explain, my words tumbling out in a panic. "No, it wasn't like that. What happened was, did you or did you not push him?" She suddenly raised her voice, and my face went white with shock. Staring at the furious woman in front of me, I instinctively pulled out my phone to call for help. "I'm calling Eva." That only made Claire angrier. She snatched my phone and slammed it onto the floor, the screen shattering. She braced her hands on the wall on either side of me, trapping me. "Ava?" She let out a cold laugh. "Since when did you two get so close? Sam, don't you forget." She leaned in, her breath hot on my lips. "I'm your girlfriend." I shook my head slightly, my voice barely a whisper. "Not anymore. Claire, let me go." I tried to push her shoulder away, protesting softly. "I hate you. I don't want you anymore." She laughed faintly, as if I'd just told the most ridiculous joke. She seemed to think I was just throwing a tantrum, completely unconcerned. She started dragging me toward the storage room at the far end of the second floor. "Sam, even an idiot has to be punished when they do something wrong." I looked at the windowless room, which looked more like a prison cell, and terror washed over me. "Don't lock me in there!" I struggled with all my might, my explanations turning into desperate pleas. "He did it on purpose! He wanted me to push him! Claire, don't! I'm afraid of the dark. I don't want to go in there!" Claire turned a deaf ear, locking me in the storage room without a change in expression. "I'm going to the hospital to take care of Mark now. When I get back, I hope you'll have had some time to reflect, and that you'll be ready to admit your mistake and apologize to Mark." The storage room was perfectly sealed. Not a sliver of light got in. I didn't even know if the oxygen would run out and I'd suffocate in here. At first, I held on to a shred of sanity, pounding on the door and crying for help. Then, all that was left were hysterical, gut-wrenching sobs. Finally, exhausted, I slumped against the door and sat on the floor, numb and devoid of all emotion. When I opened my eyes and my consciousness returned, the first person I saw was a woman whose blouse was slightly disheveled, but her features were stunning. So stunning that I liked her the moment I saw her. "Sam!" She called me Sam. "Who are you?" My subconscious told me I didn't need to be on guard with this stranger. Why can't I remember anything? She paused for a barely perceptible second, then helped me sit up against the headboard. Her gaze was tender and affectionate. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "I'm Ava." She smoothed my hair back and introduced herself slowly. "And also, your fiancé." She was my fiancé. It felt like winning the secret rare prize in the very first blind box I ever bought. My face immediately lit up with joy. Just as I was about to speak, the bedroom door burst open. A disheveled-looking girl stumbled into the room. "Sam, I was wrong." She looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. I pointed at her and asked Eva, "Who is she?" The woman smiled and placed a gentle kiss on my forehead. "My younger sister, Claire," she added nonchalantly. "To you, she's just an insignificant stranger." Claire stared at Eva, her eyes filled with disbelief. "Eva, are you crazy?" She opened her mouth as if she had a million things to say. Eva's lips curved into a faint smile as she cut her off. "Isn't this what you've wanted for a long time? To get rid of him?" That one sentence pinned Claire to the spot. Her gaze fell on my face, and she stared at me for a long time, her expression dark and unreadable. I was completely baffled by the complicated look on her face. Seeing my confusion, she suddenly laughed. Still the same, that same clueless, dazed look. She fixed her eyes on Eva. Of course, if you're willing to take over, that would be for the best. But are you sure you can stand talking to a brick wall forever? Before Eva had her escorted out, she replied with a light laugh. What makes you so sure you're not the one being left behind? Claire's face grew darker than the storm clouds outside. Let's see if you can still talk so tough in a little while. That evening, when the doctor came to check on me, he left me with a cryptic remark. It seems the shock may have stimulated Mr. Knight's neurological development. He might become a normal person. Eva's expression was neutral, clearly disagreeing with him. He's always been a normal person. I started to wonder if maybe I wasn't normal before, or if I was mentally challenged. That suspicion was confirmed when Claire brought a boy named Mark home that night. The moment he saw me, he screamed in terror. Sam, I was wrong. I didn't know you hated me that much. If you don't want me here, I'll leave right now. Please don't push me again. Let me go, Claire. I want to go home. His voice cracked as he spoke, making him sound deeply wronged. Claire's icy gaze fixed on me. Sam, apologize to Mark. Eva, sitting next to me, was about to speak, but I beat her to it. Where's the proof? In an instant, everyone turned to look at me. The air seemed to freeze, becoming unnaturally quiet. I still had a chip in my mouth. I tilted my head and looked at Mark. You said I pushed you. Do you have any proof? I don't remember anything, so I can't just take your word for it, can I? What if tomorrow someone tells me I murdered someone? Should I just jump off a building to pay for it? Eva was the first to recover. She rested her head on her hand, watching me with amusement. After thinking for 2 seconds, I offered her a chip. If you want some, you can just take them. It was kind of embarrassing, having her stare at me like that. I managed to add, fighting back a blush, Girlfriends don't have to be so formal with me. She let out a low chuckle and accepted my reasoning. Frank's face was blank for several seconds before he finally stammered out, It was an emergency. I didn't exactly have time to record it. I cut him off. Well then, there's nothing to be done. There was no way I was taking the blame for something with zero proof. Ignoring the two of them, I went back to sharing my snacks with Eva. In the middle of the night, a sudden storm knocked out the power in the house. The pitch-black room made me feel suddenly anxious and unsettled. Without even putting on shoes, I rushed to Eva's bedroom door. My knocking woke up not only Eva, but also Claire in the room next door. I hid my hands behind my back, fidgeting uncontrollably. I said to Eva, I'm a little scared of the dark. Can I sleep with you tonight? No. Claire was the one who answered immediately. Her brow was furrowed. Could you have a little self-respect? My sister-in-law-to-be was so annoying. I shot back with a deadpan expression. Are you jealous? The moment the words left my mouth, Claire's eyes darkened. The hand at her side balled into a fist, veins popping, but she didn't deny it. Even though I was younger than her, I figured since I was going to be her brother-in-law, I should be the bigger person. I sighed and shook my head. Just because your boyfriend gave you the cold shoulder, you can't stop me and your sister from being together. Claire froze. Who's my boyfriend? Isn't it Mark? She opened her mouth to say something, but before I could hear what it was, Eva pulled me into her room. The door slammed shut. Why are you wasting your breath on her? A few strands of black hair fell across her forehead, softening the intimidating aura she usually carried. Right then, she looked no different from a college student. A loud clap of thunder boomed outside. I shivered and grabbed the corner of her pajama top. So, can I sleep with you? She took my hand in hers and led me toward the bed. She glanced back at me, a lazy look in her eyes. Do you really need to ask permission to sleep with your own girlfriend? I felt like there was a double meaning in what she just said. Not long after we lay down, a strange noise started coming from Claire's room next door. It was rhythmic, with a very strong beat. Claire, slower, slow down. Claire wasn't trying to keep her voice down. Louder, baby. The sounds were so loud we could hear every single step of the process. Insane. I thought Ava would be as embarrassed as I was, but when I looked at her face, I saw a smile playing on her lips. My attention diverted, I asked the question that was on my mind. Why do you look like you're enjoying the show? Ava's tone was remarkably composed. Because she'll never have another chance. Her cryptic words left me completely confused. Before I could think about it, the noises from next door got even louder. In the silent, dark night, I heard Eva's breathing deepen. In that moment, her dark, bright eyes were full of aggression. I hid under the covers, feeling a little flustered. Do you want to? Before I could finish the sentence, she cut me off. Yes, she said. I do. With that, she pulled me into her arms. It was then that I noticed Eva had nimble, slender hands. They looked like they would be perfect for playing the piano. Her soft kisses landed on my earlobe. I couldn't help but let out a small sound. The woman's smile didn't falter. So, you want to, too? I wrapped my arms around her neck in silent agreement. But then, nothing happened. What's wrong? I asked, my breath uneven. She closed her eyes, her voice husky. Don't have anything. The noises from next door finally stopped. My ears were burning with embarrassment, but I mustered the courage to make a suggestion. You could go ask Claire to borrow one. Eva looked down at me, a playful smile on her face. One isn't going to be enough. Then she got up and slipped on a robe. She even washed her hands before going to knock on the door. I huddled under the covers, listening to their entire conversation through the crack in the door. Claire's voice was cold. What do you want? Ava seemed to be in a good mood and didn't rise to the bait. She just said, Your brother-in-law sent me to borrow something. Claire sneered. Since when did I acknowledge him as my brother-in-law? I was about to roll my eyes into the back of my head. Eva was very indulgent with her younger sister and still didn't argue with her. She smiled gently. My boyfriend sent me to borrow something, condoms. She paused, as if thinking, then added languidly, Let's start with 3. 2 seconds later, Claire cursed under her breath, then added, Stop putting on an act. You won't dare, not before everything is settled. Despite her words, she slammed the door with a thunderous bang. Ava returned empty-handed. But she didn't seem affected by Claire's words, her smile unwavering. Back in bed, she just held me in her arms and did nothing, as if she had calmed down. She lazily stroked the back of my head. She wouldn't share. I'll go buy some tomorrow. With that, she closed her eyes, ready to sleep. I looked up from her embrace, completely at a loss. Ava, you can't be so selfish. She looked at me through half-lidded eyes. I didn't know how to say it, so I just stared at her pleadingly. Ava understood and pulled me closer. Her voice was teasing. Wow, you're really desperate, aren't you? The blush started at my ears and spread across my entire face. Can you please not say that? A tolerant smile played on Eva's lips. Then why don't you shut me up? Before I could react, she put her words into action. I buried myself under the covers, wrapping myself up tightly, then sent her to brush her teeth. The chaos of that night was too much for me to process. Ava and I hadn't even kissed yet. Of course, I wasn't going to let her kiss me again anytime soon. But I didn't stick to that decision for very long, because Eva was quite possibly the most pitiful CEO I had ever seen. She would work around the clock just to spend a few more hours with me. She would rush back home through storms, even when she'd planned to catch a few hours of rest at the office, just because I was afraid of the dark. And on top of all that pressure, she had to endure Claire's relentless bullying. Before Eva got home from work, I knocked on Claire's door for the first time. She froze for a second when she saw me. Through the crack in the door, I saw Mark with red, puffy eyes. I smiled sheepishly. "Sorry to bother you. I can come back when you're free." "I'm free now," Claire said quickly. She opened the door wider and said to Mark in a flat tone, "You can go now." Mark's ankle still hadn't fully healed, but Claire just watched coldly as he limped away awkwardly. Claire stumbled over her words, looking a bit lost. "Do you, want something to eat or drink? I can go buy it for you, okay? You can come in and wait." I glanced at the downpour outside, confused. I shook my head and stood at the door. "Do you know your sister well? Do you know what she likes to eat? Or what she can't eat?" I couldn't help but feel down. "I've seen how tired and busy she is with work lately. I want to do something for her." Claire's expression darkened. "Is that all you wanted to ask?" I nodded. She stared at me without a word. After a long moment, she slammed the door in my face. "I don't know. Don't bother me unless you have a good reason." She seriously had some anger issues. I kicked her door once and walked away. Claire's anger lasted well into the evening. At the dinner table at 7 p.m., Eva's eyes were shadowed with fatigue. I rested my chin on my hand, watching her with an ache in my heart. In contrast, Claire let out a contemptuous sneer. "Sis, if you're so tired, why not just hand the company over to me?" Eva paused in the middle of rubbing her temples and slowly looked up. Claire leaned back in her chair and said pointedly, "I've changed my mind. Either you give me back what should have been mine, or you give me 2/3 of your shares." She already owned a portion of the company. If she added 2/3 of Eva's shares, she would become the majority shareholder. Her intentions were blatantly obvious. After she spoke, Mark, sitting next to her, shot me a panicked look. He asked her, "Then what about me?" Claire smiled casually, spinning her plate with her fingertip. "Did I ever say you were my boyfriend? I can give you however much money you want, can't I? Don't be so boring." I chewed on my chopsticks, pretending to casually watch the two of them. I thought Mark would explode on the spot and was getting ready for some dinner theater. But he just lowered his head, on the verge of tears, and didn't say another word as they dripped onto his plate. Claire turned her attack back to Eva. "I'm talking to you, Ava. I know you'd never give up your position as heir, so just give me back what belongs to me. I just want him." She was so impatient she was using Eva's full name. Even though I had no idea what riddle she was talking about, I was still furious. I stabbed my plate a couple of times with my chopsticks, then glanced at Eva. I didn't bother lowering my voice. "Hey, is your sister missing part of her brain or something? How else could she beg so shamelessly?" Ava just smirked and said nothing. But Claire suddenly blew up. She kicked her chair back, stood up, and swept all her dishes onto the floor. "You don't remember anything, so just shut up!" She stared at me, her eyes red-rimmed, a hint of grievance mixed with her rage. "Sam, don't be so biased. You only know how nice she's been to you since you lost your memory, right? Let me make one thing clear. Before you lost your memory, hiss. Eva suddenly made a sound, cutting Claire off. I turned my head and saw a conspicuous gash on her forearm. It was long and deep, and blood was steadily seeping out. I immediately bent down to cup her arm, asking frantically, "How did you get this? I'll take you back to the room to take care of it." Eva let me pull her to her feet, saying calmly, "When Claire threw the dishes just now, a piece of glass flew up and cut me." Claire looked at her in disbelief. "Eva, what the hell are you talking about?" I had had enough. I picked up a chopstick and threw it at her. "What is your problem? Why are you freaking out for no reason? If it wasn't you, did she cut herself?" Eva glanced at the wound without emotion, as if she couldn't feel the pain. Meanwhile, a storm was brewing in Claire's dark eyes as she stared daggers at me. But in the end, she said nothing more. In the room, as I was bandaging Eva's wound, my eyes started to well up, and my voice choked with emotion. "What's wrong?" She used one hand to tilt my chin up. I shook my head and cut the gauze to tie a knot. Eva gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eye with her thumb and leaned in to kiss it. "Claire is always bullying you. Let's move out, okay?" A slight smile touched Eva's lips. "Okay?" I continued, correcting her. "You shouldn't let her walk all over you. You don't owe her anything." Her kissing stopped for a moment, and her expression became unreadable. Her eyes held an emotion I couldn't decipher. "I do feel a little guilty when it comes to Claire." I didn't understand, but Eva casually changed the subject to stop me from asking more. "How am I going to take a shower tonight?" I hesitated, not answering right away. Eva nodded. "It's fine. I can ask Claire to help me." She started to get up and walk toward the door. I blocked her way with both hands, looking up at her seriously. "She'll hurt you." I took a deep breath and said firmly, "I'll help you." Eva looked at me apologetically. "Sorry for the trouble." The bathtub was filling with water, and steam filled the enclosed space. The air was hot and humid. My hands rested on the buttons of Eva's shirt. Under her increasingly intense gaze, I fumbled with them for what felt like an eternity. Eva braced one hand on the marble counter behind me and kissed my earlobe. "A little faster, Sam. Is it too late for me to go get Claire to help you?" A low chuckle rumbled in the woman's throat, incredibly alluring. Too late. It was so hot, I felt like I was in a sauna. Eva pressed her advantage, luring me step by step into her trap. The thin air was making me feel lightheaded. All my awkward shyness vanished when I saw the blood seeping through the gauze on her arm. I pushed on her shoulders urgently, trying to get her out of the tub. "Eva, you need to get out!" The woman calmly raised an eyebrow. I was flustered and embarrassed, and I opened my mouth to say something. Eva took the opportunity to lean in and kiss me unexpectedly. She coaxed, "Give me a little something back, Sam." The pleading look in her eyes tricked me, and my resolve softened. Finally, I closed my eyes and wrapped my arms around her. I let myself sink. The next morning, I started calling moving companies. Around noon, Claire saw the large truck parked outside. She frowned and demanded, "You're moving out?" I gave her a non-committal nod and walked past her to find Eva in our room. Suddenly, Claire's gaze sharpened, and she grabbed my arm. She yanked me in front of her, her eyes fixed on the red mark on my collarbone. "You slept with her!" "It's none of your business. Let go." The pressure around Claire was terrifyingly low. Her grip was so tight it felt like she was going to crush my wrist. "None of my business?" She forced a stiff smile. "I'm your girlfriend, Sam." My eyes widened in shock. At almost the exact same moment, the bedroom door behind me opened. There was no sound, but I knew Eva was standing right there. Claire's gaze shifted from behind me back to my face, her eyes filled with triumphant provocation. She told me everything. But in her version of the story, she was the tolerant, loving girlfriend who had sacrificed her freedom for me. It took me a long time to process it all. Finally, I easily broke free from Claire's grasp. I walked over to Eva. I met her eyes without a word. Claire sneered. "She's the one who lied to you, who stole my place and shamelessly touched you." Eva remained quiet. Her words didn't seem to affect her at all. I reached out and took her cool hand, only then realizing how tense she was beneath her calm exterior. "Eva, can you tell me about what happened before I lost my memory?" She looked at me, taking a long time before she finally spoke. "I did lie to you." I nodded. "And then? How did we get along before my amnesia? And from your perspective, what was my relationship with Claire like?" A fragile emotion finally surfaced in her eyes. She slowly told me the story from another point of view. In the end, Eva said, "I don't regret lying to you the moment you woke up. If I could do it all over again, I would make the same choice." Behind us, Claire let out a cold snort. I didn't let go of Eva's hand. I squinted and smiled. "If we could do it all over again, let's not go back to when I lost my memory. Let's go back to the day I was sent to your house. You should have been the one to take my hand, not Claire. We wouldn't have had to take such a long detour." Eva pulled me into her arms. I pretended not to notice that she was trying to hide her teary eyes. That day, Claire wouldn't give up. She cornered me and demanded to know why I still chose Eva in the end. I thought about it for a moment and answered simply, "Because she loves me. And she's very, very good to me." I'd heard Mr. Chen sigh about it before. Eva had always been the same toward me. Now I finally understood what he meant. She never changed, whether I was slow or normal. She loved me. She had always loved me. Claire's voice was hoarse. "I love you too, Sam. If I didn't like you back then, I wouldn't have let you stay by my side for so long. I just didn't realize it sooner." No, that wasn't it. She was just resentful. Before, she was annoyed because she couldn't stand the idea of being tied to an idiot for the rest of her life. Now she was clinging to me because she couldn't stand that I was normal again, but didn't want her. I didn't have time to reason with her. I just looked at her blankly and said, "But you weren't good to me. Otherwise, how would I have ended up locked in a storage closet, so traumatized that I lost my mind?" Claire's lips parted, but she didn't say anything, silently letting Eva and me leave. My memory came back in bits and pieces. The day it all came back, the Donovans' house was in total chaos late at night. When Eva and I arrived, Mark was pointing the finger at me. If you hadn't pushed me back then, I wouldn't have been recovering here for so long, and my relationship with Claire wouldn't have gotten to this point. Eva scoffed and had the bodyguards outside drag him out. I stopped her, and then nodded in agreement. "I remember everything now. I did push you." The entire Donovan family turned to look at me. I slowly explained how Mark had dug his fingernails into my arm. The panic on Mark's face was impossible to hide. It was obvious who was telling the truth. Claire laughed at herself and said to Mark, "So it was all your fault that he and I broke up?" And they were back to their endless bickering. I pulled Eva out of the toxic house. She asked, "You remember everything?" I nodded, then wrapped my arms around her neck and planted a kiss on her cheek. Yep. I'm so glad I remember." "Why?" Eva held my waist. I used the height difference to nuzzle her nose. "Because I was already planning to break up with Claire back then. I'm not sure if I was already falling for you at that point, but every night you were away on your business trip, I missed you. A lot. She smiled and tilted her head to press a kiss on the corner of my mouth. Me too. There was a stretch of road on the way home with no streetlights. Combined with the heavy clouds tonight, it was pitch black. I realized with a start that I wasn't so afraid of the dark anymore. I took Ava's hand and asked her idly, "So, do you like the slower me more, or the me I am now?" Just when I thought she would give a generic, all-pleasing answer like, "I like both," she chose the latter. Why? I stopped and turned to look at her. Eva met my gaze calmly. I'll still have to travel a lot for work in the future, and I can't guarantee I'll always be there to take care of you. Not only that, but I'm 5 years older than you. I'll probably die before you do, Sam. Her words were full of our future. The you right now is great. You won't let yourself be bullied anymore. So even if one day you don't love me anymore, I can let you go with peace of mind. I latched onto the key point and shot back, dissatisfied. Why couldn't it be you who stops loving me and leaves me? Because I will never stop loving you. What a coincidence. I stood in front of her, and we saw only each other in our eyes. In that moment, it was like the whole world faded away, and there was only her. I returned her promise. Me too. I will never stop loving you either.